Hi, my name is Joan, and when we get an Alzheimer's or dementia patient on caseload, we typically have our Alzheimer's specialty team go into the home to do an assessment to make sure things are workable, are safe, and can maximize the successful outcomes for the patient. We start that usually with an occupational therapist, and in the next clip you'll see the occupational therapist show what they do with the patient.
Hi, my name is Kara. I'm an occupational therapist, and I am here to evaluate Donna's house. This is Donna and her daughter Michelle, who's the caregiver. And we're going to do a safety assessment of the kitchen, bathroom, and the living area in terms of safety with, individuals that have Alzheimer's. Donna's probably mid-stage of Alzheimer's, but I am going to cover all different stages. So you're going to see mid-stage, early stage, and advanced stage recommendations. So first we're going to get going in the kitchen, okay? So we'd like to show the stove area. We're going to come over here, Donna.
Okay.
One of the recommendations, and I'm going to have you face the stove. Yep. One of the recommendations for someone mid-stage or late stage with Alzheimer's is the safety with the stove. And Donna, a lot of times we recommend at this point not even using a stove.
Right.
Michelle's available to do some of the cooking for you and your husband as well. So a lot of times forgetfulness in terms of wanting to use the stove. So a lot of times we recommend, Donna, is just actually removing the knobs on the stove. Okay, and it's easily done. Usually I just recommend the family take it right off. So then that way, sometimes you might feel like, oh, I want to, use the stove, but not remember to shut it off. So this way, you won't be able to use the stove. And I know that's an adjustment, but again, you have Michelle here and your husband as well to help with the cooking. So another area too, is just any sort of rugs in the way, just because they are a hazard because you can pull up the rug and trip on them. And, Donna, at this stage, you have good balance. You don't need a device such as a walker or a cane, but we would recommend removing the rug, or the other option is taping it. So, Michelle, I don't know how you feel about that.
I would rather keep it if possible.
Okay, so what we do, if the family or Donna, if you're comfortable keeping it, we just want to make sure that there is a rubber back underneath it, which there is. And then I would just recommend taping the rug actually down to the floor, just so that it doesn't have the ability to come up and then you trip over it. Because, falls are a big concern in terms of safety in the home, and that's obviously the last thing we want to happen. So to tape it down, Michelle, you just, you can just put the tape right on the back of the mat and then tape it down. And again, Donna, your balance right now, so just tape all four corners down and make sure that that's not going to go anywhere when you step on it. So, the other area that we look at too is, a lot of times when you have a beautiful kitchen like this, things blend. So we like for things to pop out at you, so you recognize objects. So, for example, if you were going to get something out of the refrigerator, how are you doing finding the fridge, getting things out of the refrigerator? Do you know where the refrigerator is in this location? Okay, so why don't you just show me, why don't you just show me how you would get something to drink out of the fridge?
I would take right from here.
Okay, good. So,
and that's the freezer.
Great. And then the refrigerator side? Terrific. Okay, and that's great. And at this stage, Donna has no problem recognizing the refrigerator. But for example, Donna, if I had a client that was a little bit further along in the disease process, what I would do, because this is gray and it kind of blends with everything here. So I might make the recommendation of putting something on the fridge so that you would see it better. So for example, green is a good color because it kind of stands out. So something like this. So if you take a step back here, Donna, and as you can see, the contrast between this and the gray might help, somebody recognize the refrigerator, whereas, and you had no problem, but, somebody that had difficulty actually recognizing what this was, just putting color, tape, anything to recognize that it's, it's standing out. Michelle, do you have any questions about that in terms of?
Great idea.
Okay. Next, we'd like to discuss Strategies to make self-feeding a little bit easier and surrounding mealtime to maximize independence. So Donna's mid-stage, so right now she's not having any difficulty with feeding, but we'd like to go over some strategies. So first of all, we'd like you to notice on this plate, this is a white plate with white bread on, and the contrast is not great.
Right.
And individuals further along in the disease process might have a difficult time differentiating between the food and actually the plate. Due to visual deficits with this disease, these things become very difficult. So right now what I would recommend, and Michelle, thank you, the color change of orange to a white, okay, when you see that, and then versus when you put the bread on an orange plate, it tends to stick out a little bit more, and visually it's more appealing. In the individual, and again, Donna's not having any difficulty with eating, but is able to see the food a little bit better. So again, the contrast is important. So color contrast is important. Another area of concern is, drinking or any liquids. And this is an open cup. And a lot of times this is difficult for someone when they're drinking hot coffee, spillage, and, the risk of being burnt. So what we'd like to recommend is a cup, and Donna uses this cup. For drinking. It has a cover and it has a handle. So Donna, it's a lot easier for you.
Yeah.
So
much easier.
yeah, so we would recommend that in terms of all liquid. The other thing is, and again, Donna's not at this point, but the use of visuals are very important. So, what I would recommend further along in the disease process is using visuals to show different times of the day. For example, if it was dinner time, I might use a visual, because at certain stages, verbal directions become very difficult for individuals. So actually just using an icon to show that it's dinner time might decrease some behaviors and some confusion. Again, there's visuals for all sorts of things, but spoons, if we had a hard time recognizing that this was a spoon, you can pair it with a visual to make it a little bit easier. And again, Donna's doing great in this area, but further along with the disease process, these are strategies to make it a little bit easier. The other thing too is, and we did this with the refrigerator, but just outlining a microwave with colored tape. Again, Michelle, it just makes it a little bit easier for your mom to be able to identify, open it. So this is some strategies that can be, easily added to anything in the kitchen. So do you have any questions with that in terms of
No,
the
not at all.
self-feeding? Great.
Sounds great.
Okay.